Early in the morning I walked into the kitchen because I smelled toast. Bread was burning. My first thought was that Pete had finally remembered how to turn on the toaster. That thought didn't last long. He was kissing my sister. Ellie, that's her name. Wearing my robe. Leaning into my husband like she was born for the role and just now remembered her lines. They didn't notice me right away. I stood there, barefoot on tile, watching them like it was a badly cast play. He had his hand on her lower back. She had a smirk I recognized from every childhood Christmas where she, accidentally, opened my presents. No one said a word. I placed my mug on the counter. Just set it down with the weight of someone who didn't plan on picking it back up. Then I turned and walked out. I'd learned a long time ago that silence was a lot harder to answer than shouting. I went upstairs and sat there staring at the floor, as if the answers to my questions are hidden in the patterns on our Turkmen carpet. I got in the car and drove to my parents' house. "She's sleeping with him," I said. Her brow twitched. "Oh, sweetheart. I always worried about Ellie's boundaries. You've always been stronger, and she was fragile," Dad said, like that was supposed to help. When they heard this news that takes my breath away and makes me want to scream at the same time, they were not even surprised. It turns out they knew everything. I stayed there 9 minutes. That's how long it took me to realize I was getting more warmth from the car heater than my own family. By the 10th minute, I was already planning my exit. Let me back up for a second. I am Karen, 42 years old. Pete and I had been married for 19 years, which is approximately 18 and a half years longer than I should have waited to leave him. 2 kids, 1 mortgage, 1 shared dog, and a collection of coffee mugs from vacations we mostly fought through. Ellie was my younger sister, the emotional equivalent of a glass vase on a wobbling shelf. She moved in 6 months ago, just for a couple weeks, after her latest breakup with a DJ/real estate agent who wore chokers unironically. I let her stay because I'm the kind of person who answers the phone at 2 a.m. and says, "Of course you can crash here." Pete said it was fine, because he was always fine with anything that made him look generous without costing him actual effort. Ellie settled in. Took over the guest bathroom. Started baking banana bread at odd hours and wore my clothes like they were hand-me-downs she had a right to reclaim. At first it was funny. Then it was irritating. Then that morning was and she was kissing my husband over a toaster with burning toasts. I didn't go back to the house. I drove to the bank, pulled cash, and booked the first furnished apartment I could find with running water and a door that locked from the inside. It wasn't much, 1 bedroom, a couch that creaked when I blinked too hard, but it was perfect for me now. The kids were still at school. I didn't leave a note. I texted them later that evening, "I'm fine. You'll understand soon." They were 17 and 18, which means they'd already learned how to read subtext better than most adults. Pete didn't call. The silence was louder than anything they could have said. I sat on the floor of that apartment with a plastic fork, leftover sushi, and a towel for a pillow. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and revenge. And for the first time in months, I could actually taste my food. Let them have the kitchen. I'd already taken the power with me. 3 days after walking out, I returned to the house. Not to fight. Just to collect my boots, my laptop, and the black dress that always made Pete nervous at work functions. Ellie opened the door in my yoga pants. I didn't say hello. I stepped past her with the calm energy of a woman who might just set your curtains on fire if you breathe wrong. "Karen," she said, like she'd forgotten the taste of my name. "Don't worry. I'm not staying long enough to start a kitchen fire." Pete appeared around the corner, holding a spoon and looking very much like he'd rather be anywhere else, including a dentist's office or a pit of lava. He had that shame smile he used to use after forgetting our anniversary. Not guilty. Just mildly inconvenienced. "You should have called," he muttered. I picked up my heels from under the coat rack. "You should have locked the kitchen door. Here we are." I went straight upstairs. My closet was half empty. She'd taken the red sweater I'd worn to her graduation, the silk blouse I kept for court dates, and a purse I'd buried behind winter scarves. Bold of her, really. I almost respected it. As I zipped the suitcase, I heard raised voices downstairs, Pete's sharp edge trying to mask panic. Something about bills. Something about Ellie wanting her name on the lease. I didn't care. I walked past them both with my coat over my shoulder and my wedding photo in hand. Ellie tried to stop me. Karen, wait, You are still in my pants, I said. So no. That afternoon, I visited a lawyer. He was recommended by my cousin, who once divorced her husband by leaving a post-it on the microwave and never looked back. The lawyer's office smelled like old files and expensive printer toner. Do you want the fast way or the satisfying way? He asked, flipping through a blank intake form. Can I have both? He smiled. My kind of client. Later that week, I made a mistake. I answered Pete's call. He wanted to meet somewhere neutral. I picked a Chinese buffet he always hated, sticky tables, fluorescent lights, the scent of crab legs in the air like a warning. He showed up in a blazer. I showed up in eyeliner and spite. You look good, he said. You look unemployed, I replied, pointing to his company's name tag, now missing from his lapel. We sat. He launched into a speech about years together, about how this didn't happen out of nowhere. I nodded, stirring my iced tea with the straw just to watch him sweat. She was lonely, he added. I paused. So you fixed that with a home invasion of the marital kind? He flinched. I left before dessert. Outside, I saw someone watching from across the street. A silver sedan. Tinted windows. Gone before I could blink. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I wasn't. Saturday morning, I ran into Ellie at the drugstore. I was buying dry shampoo. She was buying pregnancy tests. She tried to hide them. I laughed. You're a little late for privacy, I said. Please, she whispered. Don't make a scene. Why? Afraid someone might think I'm the one who sleeps with married men? Her hands trembled just enough to be satisfying. The next day, I texted my son, your father and I are officially separating. Your aunt and I are not. He replied, told you she was weird. Then, I'll stay with you next week. My daughter texted 15 minutes later, Ellie's pregnant? I sent back a thumbs up emoji and turned off my phone. That evening, I opened the closet in my rental apartment and realized something odd. My black coat, the one with the blue lining and the inside zip, wasn't there. I know I packed it. I remember the feel of the zipper, the click of the hanger. I also remember leaving the suitcase unzipped when I went for a shower the day before. I searched everywhere. The coat was gone. I didn't panic. I double-locked the door, closed the blinds, and turned off every light except the one over the sink. Then I sat on the floor with my laptop and opened the home security camera I'd set up 3 days ago, just in case. It had motion detection. At 2:43 a.m. that morning, the screen lit up. A figure. Hooded. Familiar shape. Unlocked the door and walked in. Straight to my closet. Picked up the coat and left. No damage. Just precision. Ellie didn't want privacy. She wanted access. The next morning, I changed the locks. Technically, I wasn't allowed to, rental agreement and all, but the landlord lived in Florida and didn't respond to emails. So I paid a guy in a van with no business card and an unsettling smile. 10 minutes, 2 locks, and a handshake later, my front door had less trust and more bite. Ellie never had a key. Which meant someone gave her one. Which meant Pete. I messaged him. Just curious, have you been handing out my keys like party favors? No reply. So I called the hardware store. Ordered 2 more deadbolts and a door chain for flair. That night, I placed the missing coat on the back of a chair. I'd found it in the building's trash room, folded neatly in a plastic bag next to someone's broken mop and an empty wine bottle. Ellie wanted me to know she'd been here. She just didn't want to say it out loud. Challenge accepted. On Tuesday, I visited Pete's office. Not to see him. To talk to his boss. I walked in wearing heels sharp enough to slice tension and a blazer Ellie once begged to borrow and I, accidentally, never returned. The receptionist gave me a tight smile that said she already knew the whole story, and I leaned into it. I need to drop off some documents for Pete, I said. Legal things. Of course, she said, eyes bright. Do you need to speak to Mr. Lennox as well? As a matter of fact, I said, yes. I think he should be aware of how Pete's using company resources for personal affairs. Especially in the break room on weekends. She didn't even blink. Just picked up the phone. 10 minutes later, I left the building smiling. I didn't want Pete fired, but I wanted him uncomfortable. He was never careful, just lucky. And luck, as I've learned, runs out quicker than printer toner in a divorce. That evening, I had dinner with my daughter. She picked a sushi place and ordered 2 sake shots before I could protest. Mom, she said, this is all insane. Tell me about it, I said, stabbing a tuna roll. She took my boots. My favorite boots. The ones with the good arch support. She's pregnant, she added, like it was weather. I'm aware. She says she might not keep it. She says a lot of things. She also said you threatened her. I paused. Did she mention breaking into my apartment? She said she returned something. I didn't realize breaking and entering came with a return policy. She looked down at her soy sauce. I'm not mad at you, I added. But be careful. Loyalty in this family is more of a revolving door than a value. 2 days later, I found photograph taped to my front door. It was me. Standing at the trash bins in my slippers, holding the bag with the coat inside. On the back, in Ellie's handwriting. You always miss the point. I stood there for some time. Then I laughed. She was trying to confuse me. It was her oldest trick, chaos as camouflage. If she stirred the water long enough, people stopped asking who made it dirty in the first place. I went inside, poured a drink, and turned on every light. Then I pulled out a dusty file box and opened the envelope I'd been avoiding for 2 weeks, the one with Pete's old laptop password, his sync drive info, and a sticky note labeled Ellie, March. Backups, spreadsheets, and folders. I clicked, and everything got quiet. The first thing I did was cancel Pete's gym membership. Technically, we shared the bank account it pulled from, and I still had control over the notifications. I sent a cancellation email and requested a refund for the unused portion of the year. He got a call 3 hours later. Then I rerouted his car's Easy Pass account to my email. Changed the billing info. Ordered a replacement tag and used the new one to toll hop around the city for 2 days just to rack up charges. My daughter sent me a screenshot from Instagram, Ellie, crying on a front porch, talking about toxic narratives, lies being spread, and how some people can't let go. I zoomed in. The porch was mine. Well, ours. Pete and I still co-owned the house. His name was on the mortgage. But mine was on the title. He'd forgotten that part. Easy to do when you let your mistress decorate the living room. So I emailed my lawyer. By Thursday, a formal notice of property sale was in Pete's inbox. By Saturday, a for sale sign was in the front yard. Ellie called me. For the first time since the kitchen. I picked up. Are you serious? She snapped. You're selling the house? I own half, I said. I decided to sell mine. Whoever buys it can discuss the rest with you. You're insane. And you're pregnant from my husband. So here we are. She hung up. I turned my phone off. The next week, I staged the house. I hired a real estate agent who used to model and a stager who brought in all white furniture. I made sure everything smelled like citrus and legal action. I didn't tell Pete or Ellie when the first showing was. They found out when they walked in and saw a strange couple sipping sparkling water on the back porch. According to my agent, Pete asked, "What's going on here?" And the woman replied, "Oh, we're thinking of raising chickens." That weekend I called my son. "How's Dad?" Panicking, he said. "I'm fine though." "Need anything?" "Yeah. A bigger popcorn bowl." "This is getting good." The house sold in 9 days. Cash buyer. Young couple with no pets and no drama, wanted a clean start and didn't mind a few quirks. I told them the quirks included a sociopath and a walking disappointment. They laughed. I wasn't joking. Pete became angry when realized how low the offer was. She underpriced it on purpose, he told the agent. She priced it to sell, the agent replied. And it did. By the time the paperwork was finalized, Pete was losing more than half of his equity. The buyer wanted immediate occupancy. And Ellie? Ellie suffered from toxicosis, according to her. I wasn't so sure. The cracks had started to show. My daughter said she caught Ellie Googling how to fake a miscarriage in a tab at the library computer. That was the moment we stopped speculating. She's lying, I said. She always has been. I wrote it to Pete. He tried to call, but didn't pick up. That same week, Pete and Ellie broke up. He left quietly, according to my daughter, no fight, no shouting, just a bag and a blank stare. The fantasy collapsed fast when the money ran out, the house was gone, and the pregnancy turned out to be as real as Pete's promises. She tried to guilt him into staying. He tried blaming me for poisoning everything. But Pete's downfall had already begun the moment I slid that anonymous envelope across his boss's desk. Screenshots and logs. The kind of late-night activity no respectable IT manager should have been clocking on a company laptop. His employment was terminated with cause. HR speak for you're lucky we didn't press charges. By the time the sun set on that week, Pete had no house. He moved into a friend's garage apartment, no job, no girlfriend, and a few outstanding toll violations he didn't understand. On Friday, I saw Ellie in public. "Karen," she said. I turned slowly, already regretting it. She looked thinner. Not physically, spiritually. Like someone who'd used too many tricks too fast and was running on fumes. She wore sunglasses too large for her face and held a matte shawl like it was a passport to respectability. "Ellie," I said. "I heard you moved in around here. You must be thrilled. That means you'll know where not to go." She blinked. "I'm trying to be civil," she said. "And I'm trying not to laugh," I replied. "One of us is doing better than the other." "You made it really ugly, Karen." I leaned in just enough. "No," I said. "I made it legal." And I walked away. That evening we had dinner together with my kids. I made lasagna, the real kind, not the frozen block Pete always bought when I worked late. "Do you regret any of it?" my daughter asked softly, scraping the last of her plate. "No," I said. "I only regret waiting so long to stop pretending." My son reached for more garlic bread. "So what now?" I poured another glass of wine. "Now we live," I said. "As we are." Without explaining it.